He cheated on me with my twin, and everyone knew except me. My name's Lena, and if you asked anyone on campus who I was, they'd probably say, the quiet twin. I used to be fine with that label. Quiet meant dependable, steady, boring in the kind of way teachers like. I never minded living in the background, it felt safe. My twin sister, Lena, though she was everything I was. Loud, magnetic, impossible to ignore. You'd walk into a room and your eyes would just find her. We were identical in every physical sense, but somehow she carried the spotlight while I carried the silence. Growing up, people said it was charming, our balance. Where I hesitated, she leapt. Where she burned too bright, I cooled things down. We were like mirror halves that kept the world steady. Maybe that's why I never questioned her loyalty. Twins are supposed to be inseparable, right? Two bodies, one soul, all that poetic nonsense people love to quote. I believed it. I believed in her. By the time college started, we were still close but living separate lives. She chose journalism, I chose psychology. I liked analyzing people from a distance. Lena liked being the headline. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I met Ryan. Sweet, funny, patient Ryan. He wasn't my type at first, too confident, too sure of his charm, but he had this way of listening that made silence feel comfortable instead of awkward. When he called me his calm in the storm, I melted a little. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. My friends swooned. Mom adored him. Even Lena teased that he was husband material. Sometimes they'd all laugh at something I didn't quite catch, some inside joke that would make Ryan's eyes flicker toward Lena for a second too long. It was probably harmless. Still, a strange unease would creep in, like I was missing a line in a play everyone else had rehearsed. But I brushed it off. I told myself not to be paranoid, not to feed the jealousy monster that destroys good things. Ryan loved me. Lena was my sister. Life was warm, predictable, almost cinematic. And maybe that's why I ignored the tiny, whispering thought curling at the back of my mind. In stories that look this perfect, something always breaks eventually. Being a twin sounds glamorous until you live it. Growing up, Lena and I were like a walking magic trick. Two matching little girls in floral dresses that our mom thought were adorable. Teachers never learned to tell us apart. They'd call out one name, and both of us would answer just to mess with them. At first, it was a game. Then it became exhausting, like I had to share my identity with a reflection that refused to blink. Lena reveled in the confusion. She'd grin every time someone gasped, "You're identical." For her, it was power, an audience's instant fascination. For me, it was a curse stitched into my skin. Every compliment to her felt like a measurement of where I fell short. Lena was sunshine, spontaneous laughter, and wild confidence. I was her shadow, careful steps, and second thoughts. People said I was the sensible twin, which is just another way of calling someone safe. It didn't hurt back then, not really, but I can see now how the pattern started long before Ryan entered the picture. In high school, Lena was the one who dated. I was the one people came to for advice about dating. She'd mimic my serious expressions, exaggerate my tone, and everyone would laugh. "Don't be such a Lena," she'd joke whenever I worried about consequences. I'd laugh too, because what else could I do? Twins are supposed to share everything. Clothes, secrets, birthdays. I didn't yet understand that attention was something she'd learned to take, and I'd learned to surrender. When Ryan and I began seeing each other, Lena reacted like she'd won something herself. She squealed, demanded every detail, even teased him endlessly when they first met. It felt harmless, sisterly enthusiasm. But looking back, I see the cracks. She decopies small gestures I made around him, tilt her head the same way when she laughed, brush imaginary dust from her jeans like I did. Once, at a party, she popped up next to him while I was in the kitchen, and when I came back, they were reenacting my habit of tucking hair behind my ear. Everyone chuckled, and Ryan grinned at how spot-on her impersonation was. I laughed along, pretending it didn't sting. Those moments were tiny, fleeting, easy to rationalize, but a strange unease began coiling inside me. It wasn't jealousy, it was something colder, harder to name. Like realizing your reflection could step out of the mirror and start rewriting your life, gesture by gesture. Back then, I told myself Lena was just being Lena, playful, bold, incapable of hurting me. Twins don't cross certain lines. That's what I believed. I should have known better, because the truth is, sometimes mirrors don't just reflect, sometimes they impersonate. Our one-year anniversary felt like proof that fairy tales could exist in real life. Ryan took me to the little Italian cafe where we'd had our first date. Same candlelight, same cheap red checkered tablecloth. He even remembered which pasta I ordered that night. I remember sitting there, twirling the spaghetti around my fork, thinking this is safe, this is home. For the first time, I wasn't comparing myself to anyone, not even Lena. Ryan loved me. Or that's what I thought. Small things began to unravel in slow, almost invisible ways. Once, he mentioned a story about my grandmother's cat clawing through wrapping paper, and I froze because it wasn't my story, it was Lena's. Another time, he called me a nickname I'd never used, one she gave herself in high school. I laughed it off, saying he must have mixed us up during one of our all-together hangouts, but his embarrassed chuckle lodged itself under my skin. He started dropping Lena's name in conversations more often, always with that casual, respectful tone people use when they don't want to sound too interested. Lena's so fearless about life, he said once. You two balance each other perfectly. Compliments, sure, but it made me wonder why her fearlessness fascinated him more than my steadiness. My friends noticed something, though they never said it outright. Whenever I brought up Ryan or plans for our future, moving in together, maybe traveling after graduation, they'd exchange quick glances, the kind that last a fraction too long, like an unspoken warning flickering between them. I thought maybe they doubted me, not him. That maybe I wasn't exciting enough to keep someone like him in love forever. But then he started getting confused. He'd text me mid-lecture, asking about details from conversations we'd never had, then say, "Oh wait, I think Lena told me that." It should have been funny, the typical twin misunderstanding, but it didn't feel funny. It felt like he was living half in my world and half in hers, blurring the line that used to separate us. Still, I tried to romanticize it. Told myself it meant he cared about both of us, that he admired my family, that Lena's charm was something even I couldn't deny. It's easier to believe in love stories than to face quiet suspicion gnawing at your chest. If anyone asked back then, I'd have called us perfect. But even perfection has cracks, hairline thin and silently expanding. Looking back, I realize I was standing on the surface of a frozen lake, smiling for pictures, unaware that the ice beneath me was already splintering. It started small, the kind of shift you almost miss because it hides behind logic. Lena said her roommate needed space, so she began spending more nights at our apartment. I didn't mind at first. She'd stretch across the couch, stealing my hoodies, laughing so loudly that even Ryan joined in when he visited. It felt like old times, messy, loud, uncomplicated sibling love, except it was. Something electric hung between them. I tried to ignore it, but my stomach noticed before my mind did. Ryan insisted he wanted to plan something special for my upcoming birthday. "Lena's helping me," he said with a smile that was supposed to reassure me. "She knows what you like." And that sentence replayed in my head longer than it should have. She knows what you like. The idea stirred something territorial I didn't want to acknowledge. One Thursday, he said he might swing by to ask her opinion on decorations. "No surprise spoilers, I promise," he teased. I told myself it was sweet that he cared enough to plan surprises, but a flicker of jealousy licked at my ribs. Not the dramatic kind, more like quiet heat creeping under your skin until everything itches. When they spent the afternoon together, I scrolled social media compulsively. Nothing looked suspicious. Just ordinary posts, harmless reels, memes about midterms. Still, I couldn't breathe right. Then came the work weekend. Ryan texted that his team needed him late, and that we'd celebrate next week. I believed him because that's what love requires, doesn't it? Trust, even when it trembles. But that night, as I doom-scrolled before bed, a notification popped up. Lena tagged in a photo at a downtown bar. She was smiling, hand lifted mid-toast. My breath hitched when I saw the blurred figure beside her. Broad shoulders, plaid shirt, the same brown hair I'd traced with my fingertips 100 times. Ryan. I stared until my eyes watered, convincing myself it must be an old picture. Maybe edited, maybe coincidence. There were 100 possible explanations, all of them kinder than the truth. I even typed a message. Asterisk looks fun. Who's with you asterisk? But never sent it. My thumbs hovered, trembling, before I locked my phone and told myself I was being ridiculous. The next morning, Ryan called, voice casual, unbothered. Busy night, lots of deadlines. I listened, waiting for any hint of guilt in his tone, but there was only the confident warmth I used to adore. I responded the way I'd been trained my entire life to keep peace, to swallow doubt. That whole week, everything felt slightly off. Lena hummed in the kitchen while making coffee, her voice stretching into songs she didn't finish. Ryan texted less but made his smiles count when we did meet. The words "I love you" came out of him easier than before, like he was rehearsing them. You'd think affection would soothe suspicion. It doesn't. It burns worse because it sounds like mercy. I kept convincing myself that I wasn't a jealous twin, that I refused to become one of those paranoid girlfriends who check phones or stalk accounts. But at night, I'd lie awake beside the faint hum of my phone charging, wondering if I was slowly being replaced. If, somewhere between my trust and her charm, I'd become the understudy in my own love story. The day it happened is carved into me like a scar you stop trying to hide. A week before midterms, I'd been making flashcards in the library when I remembered Ryan had missed a few psych notes. It was such an ordinary thought, so small, that I almost laugh now at how something that simple led to everything breaking. I texted him that I'd dropped the notes off at his apartment. He didn't answer, but that wasn't strange. He was always glued to some project. I took it as a sweet gesture, helping my boyfriend study, being the supportive one. It's almost poetic, the way kindness sets you up for heartbreak. When I reached his building, the first odd thing was the unlocked door. Ryan never left it open. The hallway smelled like cologne and cheap white wine, that sticky sweetness that clings to memories you don't want. I called his name once, lighthearted, expecting maybe he was cooking or half asleep on the couch. Then I heard her laugh. It echoed like a sound pulled from a nightmare, so familiar it confused my brain before it crushed me. I moved forward slowly, my heart hammering in my throat. The music playing from his speaker was upbeat, carelessly happy. I pushed the door open. Everything inside me froze. Ryan's hands were tangled in Lena's hair, her head tilted back, eyes closed, both of them lost in some blissful world where I didn't exist. For a second, I thought I'd dissociated, that maybe I was looking at a memory or a cruel dream. But when Lena's eyes flicked toward me and widened in horror, the illusion shattered. My scream came out raw, animal, slicing through the room. They jumped apart like scared kids caught misbehaving. Ryan started babbling instantly, words spilling out faster than sense. "Lena, wait, this isn't she came over, I thought," he actually said it. "I thought you were Lena." As if there's a universe where that sentence redeems you instead of damning you. Lena's mascara trembled on her cheeks, black rivers down a face that mirrored mine. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. Her voice cracked on mean asterisk, as if intention could rewrite actions. I stared at them, my sister and my boyfriend naked in guilt, clothed in excuses. The air felt thick, sticky, unbreathable. I dropped the notes. Paper scattered like snow on the dark floor. No one moved. My hands shook so badly I pressed them against the doorframe to steady myself. "You thought I wouldn't find out?" I finally managed. Ryan tried to step closer, reaching out with that same hand I once thought would never hurt me. I flinched back like it was fire. Then silence, long, suffocating silence, broken only by my own ragged breathing. I saw in their faces the truth that hurt most. They hadn't just slipped or fallen into temptation. They'd known it was coming. They'd walked toward it together minute by minute, pretending not to look back. I remember walking out in slow motion. My mind stopped forming words. The night air hit me cold, sharp, real. Somewhere behind the apartment door, they were probably arguing about what to do next. But I didn't stick around to hear. Everything I loved had detonated in one glance, and the explosion had both our faces. After that night, everything blurred into static. I moved through campus in a kind of numb fog, hearing whispers dissolve when I walked into rooms. It didn't take long for the truth to crawl its way out. Secrets travel fast when drama's involved. People love tragedy, especially when it's dressed up as gossip. Lena's twins stole her boyfriend. That phrase became currency, traded between pity and fascination. At first, I tried pretending not to care. I focused on exams, coffee, breathing. But one by one, fragments started appearing, people who didn't know how to tell me. My friend Nora admitted she'd seen Ryan and Lena leave a party together once. She'd assumed I already knew. Our classmate Ben confessed he'd spotted them sharing a milkshake downtown a month earlier. He thought it was innocent. Everyone thought asterisk. Everyone hoped asterisk someone else would warn me. When I confronted my mom in a tear-streaked phone call, her sigh told me she wasn't surprised. "Honey, I had a feeling something was off. Lena's been different lately." The words hit harder than shouting ever could. A feeling. That's all she had, and she kept it to herself. Maybe she thought she was protecting me from unnecessary pain. But ignorance isn't protection, it's delay. The isolation hollowed me. It wasn't just losing Ryan or Lena. It was realizing how replaceable I'd been in everyone's eyes. A quiet girl easily brushed aside, trustworthy to a fault. I kept replaying conversations, finding hints I'd missed. Lena's teasing, Ryan's hesitation when I said asterisk I love you, my friends' awkward smiles whenever I mentioned future plans. Betrayal didn't strike in a single moment. It dripped, slowly, disguised as kindness. My apartment turned into a battlefield I couldn't clean. Her mug, her perfume, her hair ties, all evidence of how tightly she'd woven herself into my life before ripping the threads apart. I avoided mirrors. Looking into them felt like seeing the villain and the victim at once. Some nights I'd catch myself whispering questions I'd never get answers to. Did she love him first? Did he love asterisk her more, or was it just thrill disguised as affection? Mostly, I wanted to know why nobody stopped them, why nobody cared enough to open their mouth and scream this isn't right. Grief melted into humiliation, then into something emptier, a numb ache that didn't even feel like sadness anymore. Lena wasn't just my twin. She was the one person who was supposed to know exactly how to protect my heart because it was half hers. She stolen it instead. Who am I if even my mirror betrays me? I didn't have an answer then, only silence reflecting silence. Rage came quietly, like a forgotten storm sneaking back over calm water. One morning I woke up, looked around my room, and every object felt infected, memories clinging to them like fingerprints I couldn't scrub off. The mug Ryan bought me, the sweater Lena borrowed, the framed photo of us at the lake. I snapped. I packed everything into garbage bags, marched them to the dumpster behind the building, and stood there breathing hard as if the act could suffocate the ghosts. Then I blocked them both. Phones, socials, everything. No more explanations, no more apologies I didn't ask. People said I should talk to them for closure, but closure is just another way of reopening the wound. I told everyone I needed space, though what I really meant was I didn't trust the world to stay solid. Classes slipped. My attendance vanished. The campus felt smaller yet somehow emptier too. I skipped lectures where Ryan might show up, avoided corridors Lena once laughed down. Every hallway carried echoes of them, and the echoes started sounding like mockery. The hardest part was the mirror. I'd catch my reflection mid-teeth brushing and freeze. Same dark eyes, same tilt of the mouth, that identical twin symmetry that used to feel like magic now felt like punishment. When I looked at myself, I saw asterisk her. And worse, I saw him too because the memory of his gaze followed that face. I began avoiding mirrors altogether. Makeup went untouched. I stopped caring how I looked. Loving yourself becomes impossible when your own features feel like the crime scene. Nights blurred into scrolling sprees and half-finished journal entries. I wrote letters I never sent, angry ones, sad ones, sometimes both in the same paragraph. Somewhere between exhaustion and despair, I convinced myself maybe I deserved it. Maybe good girls bore people to death. Maybe Ryan wanted chaos. It's amazing how pain rewires logic. You start making villains out of yourself just to make sense of what hurt you. Then came the night everything cracked open again. I was sitting on Maya's couch. She's a senior from my art therapy group, older, wiser, comfortably blunt. I hadn't planned to talk, but something about her safe silence made the words spill out. I told her everything, ugly details and all. When I finished, she didn't tell me to forgive or move on. She just said, "You're grieving a double death, the love you lost and the trust you buried." For the first time, I cried without shame. That night marked the tiniest beginning of healing. It didn't fix me, but it stopped the free fall. Months passed before I saw her again. Time dulls pain, but it doesn't erase the shape of it. It just hides under new memories, waiting for the right shadow to wake it. One afternoon, I got an email from Lena. The subject line was only 2 words, "Please, Lena." I stared at it for minutes, debating whether opening it meant weakness. Curiosity won, or maybe survival did. She asked to meet, said she didn't expect forgiveness, only closure. I almost laughed at the irony. Closure for her meant confession. For me, it meant not hearing her voice again. But curiosity is cruel. I needed to see if she even looked like me anymore, if guilt had changed her face enough that we'd finally stop being identical in every way except conscience. We met at a quiet cafe on the edge of town. When she walked in, my breath caught. She seemed smaller somehow, as if shame had shaved off the edges of her confidence. Her eyes, my eyes, wouldn't meet mine right away. She ordered chamomile tea, the same flavor I used to drink when we were kids, and I wondered if that, too, was habit or manipulation. The first words out of her mouth were, "You look thinner." I almost laughed. Typical Lena starting with observation to avoid emotion. But when she started shaking, the laughter died. "I don't know why I did it," she said. "At first, it was just flirting. I wanted to feel the way he looked at you." Her voice cracked. "He loved you. He really did. I just wanted to borrow that love for a little while." That hurt worse than any insult could. Borrow. As if affection were a sweater you could slip on and return without stains. I asked her if she ever thought about what it would do to me. She nodded, eyes glistening. "Every day," she whispered. "And that's why I can't forgive myself." For a moment, empathy tried to surface. My twin was unraveling in front of me, and part of me, the same part that used to bandage her scraped knees, wanted to comfort her. But then I remembered the photo at the bar, the unlocked door, Ryan's pathetic excuses, and the compassion burned away. "Lena," I said quietly, "forgiveness isn't a reward you earn. It's something I give so I can finally breathe again. Don't mistake it for forgetting." She nodded, tears splashing onto the table. Neither of us reached out to wipe them. The conversation drifted toward Ryan. She told me he'd left town months earlier, transferred to another branch of his firm. Word was, our mutual friends had turned cold on him after the truth leaked out. The golden boy lost his shine, and somehow that felt fitting. Retribution rarely asks for permission, it just arrives. When we finally stood, she asked if we could hug. I hesitated, then did. It felt like embracing a ghost wearing my skin. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt tired, like I was releasing a burden older than either of us. Walking out into the sunlight, I realized she and I would always share DNA but never trust again. She debuilt her punishment. I only needed to stop living inside it. The forgiveness I carried home that day didn't make me whole, but it made me free. Moving felt like shedding a skin. I found a tiny apartment above an art supply store, the kind of place that smelled like turpentine and rain. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Every nail in the wall, every creak in the floorboard. For the first time, silence didn't sound lonely. It sounded private. Art therapy started as homework from Maya. Try painting what you feel, she said. I laughed because how do you paint emptiness? Turns out, emptiness looks like fractured glass and half faces. My first canvas showed two silhouettes pressing against a mirror, one fading, the other breaking free. It wasn't pretty, but it was honest. The brush became the first thing that didn't lie to me. Days turned into a routine of colors and coffee. Sometimes I'd destroy a painting halfway through, then start again. Sometimes I'd leave it messy, streaked human. I posted a few of them online, mostly as a quiet journal. Unexpectedly, people responded. Comments poured in from strangers, stories of betrayal, forgiveness, sisters, lovers. They said my paintings made them feel seen. I realized pain isn't solitary. It's universal, wearing different faces. The more I created, the more ownership I reclaimed. Lena's image no longer haunted me. It inspired me. Every time I drew twins, I shifted their outlines further apart until they no longer mirrored each other. I began to see in those sketches the version of me untouched by comparison, unmeasured by anyone else's shadow. Therapists call it narrative rebuilding. I call it learning to like my own reflection again. I started smiling at mirrors, cautiously at first, then fully. The girl staring back wasn't the quiet twin anymore. She was the author, the painter, the survivor. I found beauty in solitude. My walls were covered with chaotic art and gentle light, proof that something broken could still make color. The mirror finally stopped feeling like a threat. It started feeling like a witness. This is what healing looks like. Not perfection, not forgetting, but owning the story. And for the first time since everything fell apart, when I looked at my reflection, I recognized her. She looked only like asterisk me. A year later, the world feels different, though the skyline outside my window hasn't changed. Maybe it's me who finally shifted out of orbit. I still wake some mornings expecting the old ache to be waiting at the edge of the bed, but it's quieter now, like a song fading after the final note. Healing didn't arrive in fireworks. It came in tiny surrenders, learning to trust silence again, smiling at familiar streets without flinching, remembering that mirrors don't bite. I sometimes film short monologues for my art channel now. What started as painting lessons turned into confessionals disguised as creativity. Viewers call them brave. I call them necessary. It's strange, speaking to a camera instead of a therapist, but somehow it feels intimate, like whispering into a safe void. When I talk about betrayal, I keep the focus on what survives after it. People write that my honesty helps them. I smile because it helps me too. If you told me a year ago I'd ever reach this peace, I'd have laughed. Back then, peace sounded like betrayal of anger. I thought forgiveness meant minimizing what happened, but it isn't that. It's understanding that my pain doesn't own me anymore. I still don't comprehend how two people who loved me could twist that love into cruelty, but I stopped needing to solve it. There's no logic in selfishness, only appetite. Sometimes Lena texts updates, small ones, polite, distant. I reply now and then, not warmly but not cruelly either. I've learned neutrality is its own freedom. As for Ryan, I heard he moved again, chasing a new job somewhere far away. I have no interest in following the story. He belongs to a past chapter that's already closed. My new stories begin on blank canvases. Tonight, as I record this final entry, my studio smells of paint and jasmine tea. One canvas waits in front of me, two figures by a doorway, one stepping toward light, one melting into shadow. People will interpret it however they want. For me, it's simple. I finally know which figure I am. We shared a face, a childhood, and even a lover, but she'll never share my peace. Because peace isn't something you steal or beg for. It's something you build, brushstroke by brushstroke, confession by confession. When I finish speaking, I let the camera keep rolling for a moment. The light catches my reflection in the window, ghostly but calm. The story once belonged to pain, now it's mine.